Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to another edition of Escapist. I was going to say remote homewad, but Escapist Corner podcast
Yeah, between two ferns.
between two. I wouldn't call them ferns. I'd call them slightly dehydrated plants.
Yeah,
One pretty one in the middle here.
we're all on their specific nutrition challenge right now.
They're on a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Well, before we jump into our very interesting topic, we have another interesting topic to talk about, which is your hat.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's not that fun of a topic, but for the guys who are listening, I'm wearing it's a souvenir hat that you can buy in Berlin that I bought. 10 years ago, no, 15 years ago.
Checkpoint Charlie.
Not Checkpoint Charlie, but probably Alexanderplatz, I think. But yeah, 2003 or something like that. And it has like a communist brooch here. And yeah, it's like a disclaimer. I guess this has to be. I don't support any of the communist parties out there. We're not going to talk about politics or ideology today, but I can say there are some nice ideas that are terrible in practice. So see this is just a souvenir from my I don't know, innocent childhood, being a stupid teenager buying this stuff. So yeah.
Well, it looks like it's holding your headphones on pretty well, so
I'm pretty happy about the comfort of this, at least.
it looks comfortable.
Yeah, it's come to use once before. It was for a masquerade party.
All right.
And in this party, I can recall like East Germans being very mad at me. So I'm sorry to all the East Germans. And yeah.
Well, I'm sure apology accepted.
All right.
All right. Well, today
This is your sensor.
That is my pen. Today we do have a cool topic to talk about, and it is what's wrong with the fitness industry.
Oh yeah.
So there's a few things to unpack there.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot, and I've been talking to many of our members about this lately. So there are many things that we that came up, have been coming up that I think are also interesting that we can maybe slide into this conversation too.
All right. Well, there's so many aspects to it, and so I guess we'll break them down. And the first one that we can talk about is within the fitness industry is nutrition.
Oh yeah.
So
exactly. I think the biggest problem, to be honest, is not the specific fads and nutrition gurus or so particular, but I think the biggest problem is actually the science and the funding of the science. So to be more specific, there was a recent study now, meta-analysis of nutrition studies that said, up to 50% of these studies are more or less almost fraudulent because they're paid studies, and the results are not, they're not honest. They're not good science pieces.
okay.
And they get, however, financed by usually a couple of corporations. We have some big ones. Most of the most popular drinks, popular cereal brands, and corn producers and so on. They are very big at producing crap science. And the reason for it seems to be to confuse people, because there are like really good pieces out there too, but just by overwhelming the market. So looking at the science, like 50% is almost fraudulent. Like it's like, is this really a good study? Do they really mean this? Did he maybe do something wrong and he didn't notice himself? Like it could be, you know, an honest mistake.
Yeah.
But then you have another 30% on top of that is even more, you know, noise. Also conflict of interest in those studies, but it's usually like that. Somebody needs to pay for the studies. So okay, what we have left is like 20% that are like rigorous, very good studies, but all this noise from the other 80 is just making so many making it very hard for normal people to understand the message.
Right. It almost sounds like it's like overwhelm the population with as many different kind of ideas, methods.
Well, if I'm selling cigarettes, and there are some very good studies showing that people get cancer from these products and so on. Well, as a cigarette company, which they also did, you're going to publish your own studies saying that in our research group, or in our research, the smokers actually were living 2 years longer than the other ones. So now you make the claim, the headline is going to be smokers live longer. And same thing has been done now in the nutrition or in the food industry. And looking at the marketing behind the food industry is some ridiculous sums that are put into marketing of food. I think it was somewhere in the heights of $3 trillion or even more. I might have actually underestimated that, but I can't recall exactly. But it's like ridiculously a lot of money, and to understand the proportion of that is that the biggest sports event in the world with the most viewers, do you know which it is?
The Olympics?
No, it's one game actually.
The Tour de France?
Super Bowl.
Oh, I should have guessed that. Okay.
So their marketing budget for the entire year is $50 million. So if the biggest sports event in the world has like 50 million, and we are looking at the food industry, I think it's actually up to 300 billion or whatever it is. So it's like the magnitude of marketing that is put into food industry is obviously really overwhelming on the market. So we're constantly being touched by products, even though we might not realize it, but we're constantly fed a message.
Right.
And again, from these, the science is simply very bad, because it's expected to have science that is not perfect, and then you have another study trying to figure out, was this done correctly, and blah blah blah. But the science is simply very corrupt when it comes to the food industry. It's a lot of money on the stake. It confuses the hell out of people, and I think it confuses the hell out of us too, trying to be kind of the filter in this. But I think the biggest advantage we have is something that we talked about, is that we are actually we have our own lab almost, right? So we can see the long-term effects of stuff, and even the short-term effects of, for example, had people here that had like, very bad condition, asthma, and bad psoriasis and skin problems and so on, and just telling them like, I think we can, might have to do with your diet, so let's try some things out, and voila, it's like it's a new chapter is opened for those people understanding their body and so on. So we can do these kind of live experiments,
Right.
and for us, what counts is not how many, how many products we sell, but actually how many people we help. So
Right.
if we are bad, well, then nobody's gonna want to have our help.
So what can people do that perhaps are not part of a gym? That don't have kind of like a firsthand resource, somebody to talk to, a coach or, trainer, whatever. What's the first step that people can start to take to avoid being another kind of victim to, this false marketing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think what you need to do is question everything.
Yeah.
So question this podcast, question what we are saying, and question whatever diet things come out there. If it says, low sugar, question that. Why is low sugar good?
Right.
And then, if it says, veganary, you have to be vegan during January, then question that. Is that really true? Are all the claims really true? And what you need to look at is source, of course. So if we take particularly like veganism or veganary and so on, there are a lot of articles flowing around on that. We need to look at, well, what's the source? There are claims like we're doing this and that and saying this and that. Well, are those claims really true? And if you find a source that says, that says that, oh yeah, this is true, then you have to question that source too.
Right.
And that's the way you have to go. And then you need to obviously at one point make your own decisions. I'm not saying that you're going to have a clear picture overnight, but it takes a while to try to filter and then change your mind, and that's totally fine. You can change your mind about paleo or veganism or keto and so on. You can change your mind, and you should if you find better evidence for something else.
Yeah.
And one thing that is talked about is like the body of evidence. And again, this is the problem. When the body of evidence is actually fraudulent, then of course it's going to be manipulated data, and many times are. So I've seen some really, really sketchy studies that have been they're really fraudulent data. They present conclusions that they don't even have data on, and these get quoted in newspapers because the claim, the headline is something, and then the reporters or the journalists, I don't know if they don't have time, but it's not in the paper itself. And I mean, I would love to dissect those papers here in front of the camera. I think I would do not a very good job at it. So someone I would like to do it that is good at dissecting papers, and that I think is also very that I have high confidence to is someone like Brett Weinstein or his brother Eric or Heather, the wife of Brett. They seem to be pretty dialed in with their way of conducting science.
Yeah.
So, but they haven't done so much research when it comes to nutrition, though. So this is the thing: most brainiacs are not in nutrition science. Right. The biggest brains when it comes to astrophysics and blah blah blah. They are there. They're in the hard gems of physics and so on. Yeah. And nutrition is kind of a forgotten piece for most of these like real brainiacs.
Yeah.
However, every time an engineer starts to look into nutrition science, the nutrition science becomes like it looks like a child's Play-Doh. It's so
Wow.
bad. So there are many examples of this, but I know. So someone, of course, is Ivor Cummings. He has done a lot of analysis on nutrition science. And I mean, he's a engineer in his background. Someone too is like Gary Taubes. He's also engineer in his background. And so it seems like all these very left-brainy people that are numbers,
Mm-hmm.
they are seeing all this
Yeah.
fluff.
Yeah.
And the guys that are more religiously emotional about, the context of the papers, they are more trying to find stuff, or but yeah, we will see what happens in the future of the nutrition science. But I think it's definitely like something that is the biggest problem right now, because every nutrition coach on this earth is kind of getting fed also wrong
Right.
information. You can do like a nutrition education and seminars and whatever, and it's just complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Like you can go years and study something that is complete bullshit,
Yeah.
because the fundamental numbers at the back are not right
Yeah.
to start with. So we'll see how it develops in the future, but I think now it's
Do you think it'll ever get to a point where people get fed up with being fed, no pun intended, bullshit?
yeah
Do you think people will kind of wake up and realize that even though it says, diet and no sugar, do you think people will really clue into it?
So already now I think people are much more educated than before.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a big shift, a big class difference in class of what people are interested and putting this into action. And usually, it's the more higher educated people. They are actually starting to take care of the diet. And 30 years ago, nobody really, diet was just, not really a thing.
Yeah.
And it's actually a very new thing, like from a historical perspective, is that 300 years ago you just had to eat whatever was possible there on the table. But it's only the last 70 years where we are overwhelmed with options of what to eat.
Yeah, and also I was actually saying this to my husband the other day, because there was a show that came up on Netflix called like Best Leftovers Ever or something like that. And I was disgusted by, I didn't even turn it on, but I was just like disgusted by the name. Not that I have anything against leftovers and eating what you have, but and not throwing food away, but this like obsession with food, right? On Netflix and other, and on television, just like make the biggest cake, the most stuffed turkey with everything in it and wrapped and whatever. And this is kind of going further than just the fitness industry, but it's this like kind of like perverse obsession with food that I think feeds into, no pun intended, feeds into even more the idea of people wanting to, find a quick fix to their weight loss after they've watched all this garbage on TV, right? About food and eating and consuming. And I think, what I like about CrossFit is just, it's so, it's bare bones, meat, fish, fruit, nuts, no sugar, a little bit of starch. Like it's foundational.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to looking into more of a like a ancestral diet. I mean, that's kind of the idea of like, what is our more species appropriate diet? Like what actually built our brains and bodies
Right.
over time. And we can say one thing, that grains have not been a big contributor to that, even though they have done a lot of like leverage in some way. But there is actually there's some cool studies from on mummies, not moms, but but yeah, that you check the like obesity was not really prevalent before the Egyptians came, and Egyptians were one of the most successful people when it came to agriculture. And what you can see with those people is that they have totally ground down teeth, and they're like skinny fat, and cavities and stuff like that. And what they did was to make flour out of the grains, they used sand and stuff like that to grind everything. That small like fine sand also ended up in the grains and the bread and so on. So that's one reason why the teeth got ground down. But they all got, if you look at old statues and everything, they are like having this belly and so on. So it's pretty cool to see like from a history that some of these they were basically insulin resistant, becoming insulin resistant because they ate so much grains.
Interesting.
But yeah, that was maybe a different topic.
We could talk about that for a long time.
What was the original question?
There was no original question. It was just a thought that came to my mind about, I mean, I don't think, like...
Oh, the ancestral diet. That's it.
Yeah.
So before that, like the 200,000 to 2 million 10,000 years ago until like 2 million years ago back, that span where the biggest, most development happened for growing the brain and so on, that's more the diet. That's why we talk about like the paleo diet. Well, that's more in something that we used to eat, and that kind of made us strong, grow, our brains grew. And then you have to look, but yeah, the common thing is, of course, when you look at paleo, is that a carrot back in the days were not big and orange. They were like these small things.
Yeah.
Cucumbers, whatever you might find that is vegetables, they were almost poisonous, and we've just been trying to manipulate the genes of these vegetables for such a long time so we can actually digest them. Yeah,
even the color. I actually found out recently, or somebody told me, that carrots originally grew, they were like purpley black, and they've been modified to a nice, bright, beautiful orange color that we can we can enjoy. So I enjoy the color. The next topic about what's wrong with the fitness industry is fad movements, and I want you to just jump right on that one because it's very interesting.
Yeah. So fad movements in my world is 90% of Instagram. No, but it's it is not only Instagram, but it's I guess like Les Mills, and maybe I shouldn't mention brands here, but like a lot of things in the fitness world where it's just I don't have anything against someone dancing or doing something choreographic, and thinking something that looks nicely, but from a fitness perspective, I'm just thinking like, well, create some coordination, but it's not like very high skilled. It's not really making you super fit. It's just it's some movement, so it's nice. It's but like it's confusing people again with what's fitness, and and yeah, that's a bit of movement, and the things that I really you know almost laugh about, or I'm always like shaking my head on, is I see some movement, a pull from the ground with the kettlebell, and then you go up over your head, and then you stand on one foot, and then you change and you jump on your right toe, and then you pick your nose. It's like all these combinations of movements that don't make any sense. Of like it feels more like what are you practicing here? You're practicing if you are half drunk and you're have to balance and you're almost falling, and then you put on your shoes at the same time, and
so it's like a performance. It's like it's kind of like a moment of glory. I know I've seen these. It's like a bunch of push-ups, and then he stands on his head, and then he flips, and then he does something else, and
some of the things are simply they are not easy for sure, but
right.
It's like I'm practicing all these skills to do something that I'm never going to use.
Right.
So it's circus. So it's like in one sense, like again, it's nice, but then again, it's not really what I would determine as fitness. Like you can be very fit, and you might have to be very fit doing that, but but you're probably not building up that fitness by starting with those movements.
Right.
So you can build up like a coordination and stuff like that. But yeah, for the most of the population, it becomes a very I guess confusing. Like
What would you say are some, okay, so those are like these, these Instagram performers that, just want to have like a moment of glory, but like, what are some movements that, the majority of people should be, maybe cautious of, when they're in the gym? Are there movements right now that are kind of trendy or are having like kind of a moment in the sun, that are potentially either useless or just dangerous?
I think so. To be able to get somewhere, I think you need to put yourself to the test. So sometimes you need to almost be at a dangerous point to be able to challenge your skills. But like if we look at specifically like CrossFit, there have been claims. Well, the big discussion has always been like, is it okay to kipping pull-ups, kipping this, kipping that, and you should be doing strict and not kipping and so on. And I think if you're not developed and you start doing kipping pull-ups or push-ups, your risk of injuries will be high. That's why it probably helps to have a coach looking at you and so on. But is it wrong? Like, no, hell no. It's definitely not. And there's no rule out there in the books or whatever saying that you have to do like it's no law of nature, like 5 strict and then you can do this.
Right.
No, it is my analogy is always like, even for some people that are not maybe like I wouldn't ask people to do kipping stuff, for example, if they're not there. But sometimes it actually can be beneficial to just touch on it and say there is this technique to doing this, which actually comes very natural for most people to do a kip. You want to use the biggest engine of your body, which is the hip, to create momentum. So we talk about it, at least because people sometimes forgot about that they can actually use their entire body. And the benefit of that, well, let's say outside the gym, which I always like to think of, like, why are we doing this movement for like a clean and jerk, or why are we doing a handstand push-up or a pull-up or so on. Well, I'm thinking if we look at the pull-up particularly, and we want to do kipping, like, you might not be at the point where you can do the kipping right now, but you understand there is something as kipping, and maybe you might get into that at some point, maybe not, but when it comes to you're in a situation where you need to fucking get over that wall, then it might be very helpful to know that you can use these other engines.
Yeah.
Not that I think that you're gonna do that, like you're not gonna hang there on the edge of the wall and like, how should I get up? Oh yeah, I have to start practice kipping now. And then, but it more is like, okay, I've done some kipping, so it will come naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely question a lot of the movements we do at the gym, and I'm thinking of like some movements that we tried out and tested as like something that Mark has been testing is like these single-legged burpees.
The one-legged burpee.
And where I'm also I'm also quite like, I think it's an interesting experiment to try out, but I'm also saying like this is not a relevant movement for me, like really in a workout. I can practice this kind of to train some skills and so on, but like in a workout, I don't think they really have a space there. It's more like testing some stuff and see disbalances and stuff like that. It can be helpful for that.
Would you say that's the same with a pistol?
The pistol, no, I don't think so, because the pistol is it's actually just a one-leg squat or a step up. So you have to climb over something, and you have heavy bags or whatever in your hands, or your kid on your shoulders, and you need to get over this fucking stone or wall, while having being able to thrust with one leg is very important. I would say.
Yeah.
Or even your own body weight for most people, right? So, so that's why I think like for the pistol is very good. Should everyone be doing that? Not the first thing they do, I think, but they're if you're weak, your weak knees or bad mobility, again, your risk of injury will be much higher. But definitely I think there's a benefit of getting to that, because you really have real life use of it.
Yeah.
Even just walking the stairs is going to be much easier.
Right. Okay. What about equipment?
Equipment. There are like in the fitness industry, there's always like the vendors, they constantly try to figure out new ways to sell old things, or that basically do the same thing, or just color it differently and call it something else, and then it's the same thing basically. I mean, there are some of these things that are simply not super necessary for creating fitness. But for one example that I'm thinking of is these, like, I don't know, functional fitness has become it's been growing the last 10 years, and the last 5 years at least, they started with like functional fitness is now you have these like bags that you have to that you have like are 2 kilos, 4 kilos, and you swing them and so on, and again it becomes more of a like this choreography where you just they're also doing like kettlebell swings and stuff like that, like I'm all for using whatever odd objects and so on, but it feels like, okay, now creating a special bag that is 4 kilos. I can just have whatever. It makes sense when it starts to get into like really really heavy duty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then you really want to have a specific kind of odd object stuff that you have to train with. But is it super necessary for getting fit? No, it's just specific. So it becomes almost more like sport specific training.
So what would you say for somebody that doesn't have access to a gym, the 3 most useful things to have at home?
Good question. I think you should have something. I'm thinking of categories now for what helps you physically and your having your health and so on. But I think something that like a weight that you can push overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's a dumbbell or kettlebell, it's up to you. But for most people, a kettlebell or a dumbbell is a bit easier. So that's probably one of the things that comes up. I would take the dumbbell before the barbell, for example, because you can do so many versatile stuff. And do you need a kettlebell on top of that? Like, not necessarily. Like, you can do so much things already with the dumbbell that are almost the same as with the kettlebell. But yeah, with the dumbbell you can push overhead.
Mm-hmm.
You can push forward, meaning you do a floor press.
Mm-hmm.
You can do vertical lifts. You can lay on your back, do lifts like that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically all the movements that gives you a good shoulder and upper back, like nice range of motion. And you can do squats with them, of course. So yeah. I think it's a very versatile thing to use. And then on top of that, like from I guess something that could be good to have is like a jump rope, because you can work a bit on your cardio, but also on coordination and balance if you do like single leg jumps and stuff like that with the jump rope. And yeah, you're jumping, so I think that's also a very important movement for the human body to be able to express. And yeah, I think I have to think about the last one. Do I need the last one? I'm thinking of something that has to create this core to extremity, but that's kind of the thing that we do with the dumbbell.
Yeah.
And
what about things like bands?
Bands are, I think they're better, like almost like rehab tools in that sense, because they're not really that good for core to extremity movements. And why I think core to extremity movements are so important is because that's where you actually have power and speed.
Right.
And to get power and speed, you need to have good balance, good coordination, good agility. You have to be flexible. Like all these things have to be built on that. With the band, it's because of the way a band works. It's hard to do like a core to extremity movement. It's more almost in the way of isolated movement. And also something I've always thought about when it comes to bands is that they're always getting the hardest at the end of the range of the movement. And I think that's never the problem for people, the end range. It's the start, it's the first range. So that's also been a bit of like my idea when it comes to like chains on squats and stuff like that. Is like, well, it's easier at the beginning where it's actually where I want to be as strongest.
Right. Okay.
But I'm creating like this big difference between my top strength at the top of my squat and the lowest part of my squat. So, and I want to have this difference as small as possible. So my bottom strength, where I'm the weakest, is much closer to my top.
Right.
I don't know, but that's kind of where how I've been thinking about those things when I've seen them. So
Could you talk a little bit about this?
Did you have any good fat equipment?
Fad equipment, stuff that's
Or
now under the bed that I don't use.
The ab crunch? Shake weight?
No, I do not have a shake weight. I know people that do, but I think it was like a gag gift. Or the Zumba maracas.
Have you seen this the South Park episode with shake weight?
No.
Okay, you can YouTube that.
Okay, I'll YouTube that later. Like fat equipment that I have or that I had. I mean, I have a bike at home, but I use it every single day. So, and it's on rental, so I did not purchase it. But I've always been, at one point, I think I said to my husband that I wanted to get an ab roller, and he was like, it's going to collect dust. And so, yeah, no, I never really bought anything. I think I bought some DVDs once.
Okay.
Which I never used, and I think they were stolen from me also for when I had a sublet. So, right. But
Jane Fonda.
No, it was not Jane Fonda. It was I can't remember what is Jason. I don't know. Anyways, but no, because I've always done my fitness outside of the house. Yeah. So, but I think in terms of equipment that is useful. I mean, for me, something to lift overhead and a jump rope. I think that's kind of all you do need, you know, to get some kind of level of fitness, right? Everything else you can, you know, that's kind of the foundation. So you can just build upon that. Yeah. So, but can you talk about this EMS machine? Because I see them everywhere in this city.
Oh yeah, the EMS. Yeah, so the EMS, for those who don't know, it is well, there are different versions of it, but basically sending light current through your muscles so they can contract and move.
Does it work?
And it works to contract the muscles. And it has one very awesome implementation, which is, as I see it, basically for rehab. However, for fitness, it's not. It doesn't give you fitness. It is good for blood flow and so on. Doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard on you and so on, that you might get like a muscle soreness if you're a couch potato. You're probably going to get muscle soreness from that because they're contracting, but you're not working on like so much of end range movements and so on. So now with the EMS studios, they combine that, of course, a bit. But from the EMS itself, it's not like the effect is not really that big in the EMS. And I asked one of the vendors, one of the manufacturers of these, and I asked him like, so what do you think? Like, should I just quit CrossFit and do this? And it's like, yeah, well, he said like, I think it's good for your recovery to maybe do some of this because it's gonna increase the blood flow after your workout. And you know, and I understand that, like, yeah, if I get some more blood flow going and it's not so strainful, then it means nutrients are coming in to the muscles for repair and everything. So yeah, I might be able to recover a bit faster if I do it. And what I wanted to say about, and that's actually the exact mechanism of when you have rehab, like, and I'm talking about like a major injury or surgery or stuff like that. And you can't do anything. Like you broke your foot, or you broke you had a knee surgery, which is probably one of the most common. or a shoulder or elbow, whatever. So by implementing these kind of things around the injury area will increase the blood flow to an area which you can't otherwise move that well without like really high pain. So by doing that, it kind of pulses out a bit of more blood, a bit more nutrients, and that helps up with the recovery to build up the tissues again, and get in more, get the groceries in, so to say. Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, it's not gonna, improve your cardiovascular endurance.
No, I mean, there are many things. I mean, you can combine that with like, I haven't seen particular studies on people doing these muscle contraction things and doing like heavy lifts and stuff like that. But I feel like it's not really to my advantage to have something just, shooting signals to my muscles while I'm trying to focus on a movement or so on.
Yeah.
But maybe there's I haven't seen that, but maybe there's like some huge hidden advantage by secretly, patching up your body and doing Fran or something like that.
Yeah.
For time. So I don't know, but from the general point of view, it's not gonna, as you said, increase that much. You need to actually do the movements.
Right. Yeah. So to kind of flip it over, now that we've kind of broken some things down, looking at what's wrong with this industry, what are some things that are happening now that are going well, that are in the right direction, that are, getting people healthier? Yeah. This isn't just a CrossFit plug because that's great, but what do you see that is working? So I think there's at the same time as we have all these things, it hopefully catches people's interest, and hopefully people start to question, why am I doing this? And if it comes to CrossFit or EMS or spinning or whatever it might be, like, is there what's the reason behind this? Like, why do I need this? And start to question that, and then you're gonna start to discover your way. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, hopefully. And there are some indications that this is actually true, because the fitness industry is growing every year. That means there are more people actually starting to think about their fitness and health. And I think the plug for CrossFit, I would say, is this connection between fitness and health, and not confusing that so much with wellness. Like, wellness is okay, but we're doing fitness. And if you look at the fitness wellness continuum from CrossFit, I think is pretty so simple, but it really tells a lot about what fitness or health is. Like, you can be dead, or you can be doing well, but as soon the wind blows, you're gonna have to retreat. Or you can be really fit, where you simply have so much more buffer, or also options. Yeah. So, but I think also, like, right now, it's such an interesting time for fitness, because how quickly it changed, almost like in a sense, kind of like overnight, in terms of how everything just kind of went online, right? Yeah. And I know one of the points that we we can get to now is the influencers, and how they've kind of like taken over, in a way, part of the fitness industry, and how that's kind of come into fruition, and getting people kind of, because we've been stuck at home for the last year and a bit, and how from what I see, it's like fitness kind of was like reborn in a different way.
Yeah, that could be true. It is. It's definitely been like a pivot, and definitely been putting the industry on like a fast forward button immediately, and basically, so we already saw trends about this, but the big global gym things are gonna be less attractive. I guess they're still gonna be, of course, but it's not gonna be the thing that many new entrepreneurs are gonna look into. Not again, there will be some big ones for sure. That's usually how it kind of works, but yeah, no, it becomes more and more, specific, and you can even look at the biggest chain in Germany, which had its massive growth by having like a discount chain, offering access for very low price, and they are putting all their horses and money now in the States and building luxury gyms where you pay $1,000 for a membership and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's not only like a gym, but it's a hotel. It's a total like a club, like a really exclusive club.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what they're looking at, and they have the scale to do that and have the money to do that for like a new entrepreneur. Now they will, most likely open up a small boutique gym,
right,
or a spinning studio or something like that. That is very more specific, and it's going to be probably even more diversified. So you're going to have not the spinning studio that everyone is doing now, but it's not everything, like everyone is just copying each other right now, is my feeling, but it's going to be more specific, like we are the spinners that spin backwards, and then it's going to be the spinners that have a certain diet lifestyle,
right,
and then we're going to have they're going to have this kind of lifestyle. So I think that's going to be...
That's interesting that you say it. When I lived in Toronto, I joined this spin studio, but it was not like a Soul Cycle. It was for road cyclists. And this bike, it was really cool. It had like hydraulics, so you could... Generally a bike, would just stay still, but this one you could kind of simulate like a turn.
All right.
And so when you stood up, like the first time I stood up and you shift your weight to one side and it feels like the bike is going to tip over, it stops. But that was such like a niche spin studio. There was nothing else like that. Yeah. I even thought about opening up one in Berlin when I first moved here, but I didn't. But
it tilts.
It tilts.
That's the slogan.
And that's about it. It tilts. But it was but the community was all these kind of just these like roadies. So it wasn't, these like 20-something-year-old girls going to Soul Cycle or something. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Not supposed to advertise. But but it's interesting, to hear your perspective on these like smaller, like more niche or more exclusive gyms.
Yeah. I mean, Soul Cycle, their concept was unheard of when they started. So and I really admire those girls that started that. They definitely had all odds against them. Yeah. But they figured out something that was missing from a lot of people's lives, and I think there's the benefit of, obviously, for a lot of like the spinning stuff and so on, is I would say the intimidation factor is very low. Everyone knows kind of how to ride a bike, and again, if the bike doesn't even tilt, you're in very safe.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
it's very safe in that
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, this is obviously different for everyone, but for me, the um, the intimacy of having been in a crowded room, of having someone just in front of you
Right.
that close, is not really
Yeah.
the place where I want to be.
Yeah.
But again, that's different for everyone. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you like it, go for it. I'm 100% supportive for people just moving. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers our topic for today.
yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, not really. Just saying, I enjoy this format, and I hope people that listen to this also enjoy it. And if they obviously have any, or if you have, as a listener, specific questions or topics you want us to take up, then let us know. You can, of course, just send a DM via any of the channels, or leave a comment or so. That then we're gonna try to do our best to kind of cover those things. But there's not going to be any end of topics here, and I guess also we're going to start to have I'm going to have some guests on the show too in the future again, but this has been a good routine for us to see what's happening. So
Yeah. And if there's anything you don't want us to talk about, you can also tell us.
yeah.
All right.
Even more topics. All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you next time.